Look, I think the objective of the Macao government and the Chinese authorities with respect to Greater Bay is to diversify the Macao economy. That diversification is largely going to be still tied around tourism, but they want to get away from the pure dependence on gaming. So the first 20 years of Macao's development under the new regime has been to expand the gaming industry, to deliver cash flows, and now the goal is to start expanding the broader tourism. So when we kind of look at the 11 different categories the government has identified, it doesn't necessarily mean that every single operator is going to be involved in each of those categories. These are basically areas that the government would like to see expanded. Some of this may come from the non-gaming operators. It may come from other companies coming in conjunction with gaming operators to develop these areas of tourism. Some of these areas have already been developed in Macao by the gaming operators themselves. You know, Sands had a health-oriented tourism, I would say, clinic at the Venetian a while back. It wasn't terribly successful, but it's something that they attempted to do. I think with government support and government refocus on Macao as a broader tourism destination, some of these new projects that the government envisions will come to fruition.
Now, I saw a headline coming through from Melco Resorts in that they were considering to move their headquarters from the U.S. Back over here to Macao, being a little bit closer to home. Is this a sign that geopolitics is starting to touch the Macao gaming space as well?
I think it's a very Melco-specific issue with respect to their U.S. listing. Obviously, the situation between U.S. and Chinese regulators with respect to Chinese companies being listed in the U.S. has raised an issue for Melco. Melco needs to figure out a solution or an agreement needs to be reached between the two government regulators. So Melco, I think, is preparing for a potential alternative to move its domicile to Macao, which would allow it to use a different set of auditors to potentially bypass a delisting order that may come for all the Chinese operators, all the Chinese companies in the U.S. I think it's a contingency. Does it raise red flags around kind of the geopolitical situation? Sure, every time you have a worsening relationship between the U.S. and China, it does raise red flags. But I'm still pretty convinced that all 6 operators, including the 3 American-linked operators, will be into Macao with the new concession regime.